Hey there guys, this is KOKOStern and this is the second part, the numbers part of my Baldur's Gate 2, Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition tutorial. So this time we're going to be talking about the numbers and the rule set and how to create your character and what all those numbers mean. If you have no idea what we're doing, go check out the introduction. It's really short and explains pretty much what I'm trying to do here. So this is going to be pretty much me explaining how Baldur's Gate takes second edition D&D rules and is actually a ginormous rule set that explains pretty much how you do anything in the game. Since this is a computer game, then you're a bit more limited and it's not that vast, but there's still a lot to talk about, and we're going to try and just do the surface of it so you can understand pretty much what you're doing for the most basic part. So the first thing that you do in a game is create your character. And there's obviously pre-made ones. We're going to ignore that. We're going to go create. And we're going to go over everything here, well, every tab at least, but not everything because there's really a ton. You will have to read a lot of things in order to decide what you want to be in terms of class and race and whatever. And at some points you have to know things that are ahead, so you'll understand everything better once we finish up everything. So let's start us off. Gender, you have male and female. This only affects who you can have romances with, obviously the opposite gender. This isn't Mass Effect 3, there's no homosexual relationships. Sorry, it's kind of old. And we're going to go with a male. In terms of the portraits here, they don't really matter. The only word of caution that I do have is that some of these actually appear in the game, and since you don't want to mix them up, I suggest going to the left here. There are a couple of new portraits special for the Enhanced Edition, if that is what you are playing. And pick one of those because then you'll be sure not to mix up with actual companions in the actual game. So I'm just going to build this Viking or whatever, and let's go into races. So this is where things get a bit, well, numberish, if you will. Elves get more dexterity, minus constitution, and there's all kinds of bonuses here. Another thing that isn't really written here is stats. So we'll get to stats and abilities later on, ability scores, that is. Different races have different limitations, and in terms of classes as well, different races can do different classes. Humans are the only one that can dual class, as an example. We will explain dual class in the tip section later on, what dual classing and multi-classing means. To just scratch the surface, dual classing means I'm a fighter, I'm a fighter, I'm a fighter. I stop being a fighter, and then I start being a mage, start being a mage, continue just being a mage. So you stop doing one thing and continue doing another thing. That's dual classing. And multi-classing is, I'm just going to be two things. I'm just going to be a fighter and a mage, and I will need more experience to do both of them. And we'll talk about how experience works in classes at the end. So I'm just going to go with humans so we can look at all the classes. And in the classes, we're going to mainly talk about, there's a ton, and actually if you go into one of them, there's even more, so there's a lot of reading to do. But we're going to talk about the 4 archetypes of classes. So the 4 archetypes in D&D are the warrior, the general fighter. This guy fights with, does damage, very direct physical damage, and is a powerhouse in terms of hit points, has a lot of them. There's the thief that has thieving skills, such as pickpockets and set traps and pick locks, and also has backstab and cool things like that. There's the clerics, the priests that is, that have clerical spells that include buffs and heals. And there are the mages that have mage spells, which can be pretty much anything from silencing to turning someone into a sheep to finger of death and you're dead. So these are the 4 archetypes, and if we're going to talk about a balanced party, you would like at least one of each. The thing is that it's not that simple. You do have a lot of hybrids and classes that do a little bit, and obviously multi-classes and dual classes that have more than one role. So let's talk about just in general what each one of these classes are. So a fighter is the only one that can go with weapon proficiencies, and we'll talk about weapon proficiencies later, don't worry. The only ones that can get with weapon proficiencies to Grand Master, which gives them insane bonus in terms of actual hand-to-hand combat. that's why you want to pick a fighter. Other than that, they're also very nice in terms of staying alive. They can wear heavy armor and they have a lot of hit points. Rangers also have cleric spells at some levels, and they're more nature inclined. They're really, really amazing archers, and that's the ranger. The paladin is also a specialized fighter. It has a couple of special abilities, such as lay on hands. There's also an evil fighter, the blackguard, that you got just because of the enhanced edition. And they have their very specific sort of fighter. Somewhat inclined with the clergy in terms of they have deities and things like that. At the bottom here we have the monk, which is also a fighter. This is a very specific fighter. It starts out very, very weak. It cannot wear armor, and it becomes one of the most incredible forces that you can actually have in 2nd edition D&D. They have incredible abilities such as Quivering Palm, which pretty much makes the character that you're attacking make a saving throw. We'll talk about saving throws later. If it fails, it dies. That's what Quivering Palm does. It's just one of the amazing abilities that monks get later on. And barbarians are pretty much hit point powerhouses. They have a lot of HP and they can range. They're pretty resistant to things. Those are the barbarians. So those are all the fighters. We're going to move on to the clerics. You can choose a specific deity. You have 3 here that give you an additional specific cast of a spell, of a very specific spell to that deity. And generally it's a cleric. It can cast buffs and heals and other clerical spells. You have the droids, which are more, it's like a cleric with nature, but more of a spellcaster than a fighter, if you will. The ranger is the nature-inclined character that is a fighter, and the druid is a spellcaster. They have specific clerical spells and also specific druidic spells that are sort of their take that has something to do with nature on clerical spells. So those are droids. One of the cool ones is Shapeshifter. You can actually turn into a wolf, and later levels you can get turned into a greater wolf, which is amazing. And those are the clerics. Other than that, we have the thieves. So the thief, again, you get points that you can allocate into the thieving skills, such as pick locks, and such as backstab. Backstab, well, is another one of the things that you can do, and you can allocate the points into finding traps and pick locks, and detect illusions is also something that thieves can do. And you also have backstab, which is if you're invisible or hiding in shadows and you come up behind and you backstab, you do a lot of damage. It's also pretty cool. You can focus on that, being an assassin that gets a lot of backstab multiplier and other things. And we also have the bard. The bard is pretty much a jack of all trades. They do have a couple of spells. They can have the Bard's Song ability, which lets you buff your allies or debuff your enemies. And they're pretty much a jack of all trades that you don't really want to take as a beginner. I really don't recommend them. They're difficult to play well because you really have to know what you're doing, and as a beginner you don't really know what you're doing. So those are the bards. And the last, we have the mages. The mages, there's actually 8 mage schools, such as necromancy and everything else, and you can specialize in one of them, which actually means that you cannot cast spells of the opposing school. There are 8 schools, and each one of them has an opposing one. So if you take a necromancer, you cannot cast illusion spells, but you get more spells that may cast 1 additional spell per level, which is great. So the other thing you have is also a wild mage. Wild mage simply adds a randomness factor to casting spells. This is pretty cool. Completely random things can happen when you cast a spell and a wild surge happens. I like wild mages, that's why I play them, because they're so random and it's fun. Other than that, you also have the sorcerer, which is the second type of mage. The difference is that mages learn spells. They don't innately know how to cast spells, so they have a big book of spells, and they know a lot of spells, but they can only cast a couple of them. They have to choose which ones. And a sorcerer, at least in the lore ways, is someone that has magical blood running in their veins, so they can innately cast spells. So they know the spells, and they have, say, a certain amount of casts for level 1 spells. So the way that it works is that mages know more spells, and they are more versatile, and sorcerers are more focused, but they can cast more spells. So these are different ways to cast spells. Choose whatever you would like. And these are all the classes. I'm just going to go with Fighter so we can move on. And we're hitting alignment. So alignment matters mostly to everybody other than yourself. The only real implication that I can think of in terms of alignment for yourself or your own character is that there are items that can only be used by specific alignments. So the robe of the evil archmagi, you can only use it if you're evil. And other than that, alignment, I mean, you want to play what your alignment is, but you don't have to. Alignment is very important for your party members. If you do good things and you have people that are evil in your party, they'll be, what the hell are you doing? And they won't like it. And we'll explain that a bit later on when we talk about reputation. But evil and good party members won't necessarily get along and eventually might actually come to blows. So you want to have either a good aligned party or an evil aligned party and neutrals, whatever, and not really mix and match unless you really know what you're doing and you manage to keep them from killing each other. So that's alignment. You're going to go with true natural because it doesn't really matter. And abilities. Yay, pure numbers. So abilities. Different. Again, we said different races have different limitations here and different bonuses. Since I'm a human, I can go all the way from 3 to 18. So 3 to 18. How does that work? Well, this is a good time to explain what number means in case you don't know. In D&D, number means the following thing. The D is for dice. There are lots of dice. And when I say lots of dice, I mean other than the 6-sided dice that you probably know from any other board game in existence. So there are dice with 8 sides on them. So it can go from 1 to 8, and dice with 20 on them. So it can go from 1 all the way to 20. So when I say 3d6, it means that I'm going to throw 3 dice that have 6 sides on them. And when I throw 3 dice that have 6 sides on them, I can go all the way from 3, if all 3 dice came up as 1, and 18, if all 3 dice came up as 6. So 3d20, which is something that you never throw, can go all the way from 3 to 60. And 2d4 can go all the way from 2 to 8. So that's something D something, so now you know that. And when you throw ability scores, I've been talking a lot today. If you throw ability scores, it goes from 3D. It goes a 3d6, so it's all the way from 3 to 18. So the minimum here is 3. And since I'm a human, I can really get to that 3. Other races have different limitations. In terms of strength, I'm a fighter. I can't go below 9 because I'm a fighter. I'm supposed to use strength. And let's really talk about what each one of these mean. They're pretty self-explanatory, but what do they mean in terms of their numbers, really? So strength goes to hit, gives you bonuses to hit, which we'll discuss later, and damage. Dexterity gives you better armor class, and if you're using missile weapons, to hit looks at dexterity instead of strength, only in missile weapons, so it's important for archers. Constitution is some of the saves and basically means how much HP you're going to get each level. It gives you more HP per level. Intelligence is important for mages. You want a really high intelligence. Wisdom is important for clerics. It's important for casting spells. And charisma is generally very important. It helps you out with, when you're talking to people, with the amount of options that you have to talk to them. And shopkeepers will reduce their prices if you're very charismatic. So those are the 6 stats. Now, in terms of the actual numbers, like we said earlier, I want to give you a little tip. The magical number, in most cases, is 16. And I'll explain myself. There are different buffs, different pluses that you get for each stat, for each class, at different numbers. So we're not going to go over everything, but obviously, the higher the stat, the better. The thing is that there's so much things that you don't really know. Should I put the one last point here, or should I put the one last point here, so this will be 15 instead of 14, or this will be 13 instead of 12. So the magical number in most cases, again, you can look at the manuals that you got with the game to check exactly. The magical number is 16. That will change that 0 to 1 or that 2 to 3 in terms of the bonuses that you get to different things. So one last thing that I do want to say in terms of the exact numbers is because we're a fighter, and only fighters get this, when you reach 18, you actually get an additional number. And this number ranges from 1 to 100. And I just got 66. So no matter what I do, remains 66 unless I re-roll. And we'll talk about re-rolling in a second. But this number is an additional score that changes how much you can hold and the bonuses that you get. This goes all the way from 0, 1, which is 1, to 0, 0, which is 100. So if you get 0, 0, that's a good thing. So that's an additional score that you get. Now, re-rolling. What I usually do is do something that's easy in terms of math to calculate. So everything is 10, so it's 60. And then there's an additional 15 here. So that's 75. Anything above 85 is considered really, really, really good. So, and pretty much allows you to do anything you want. So you'll be re-rolling a lot. I'm obviously not going to do this a lot. We're just going to see what comes up here. Shouldn't be too amazing. This is just 76. It's pretty low, but it doesn't really matter. I'm going to go with 1884. That's lovely. I'm happy. I want dexterity as high as I can get it because I want low armor class. I also want lots of HP, so I need to reduce something. And I'm going to do a very uncharismatic person. Your main character does have to speak in some cases, but not in all cases. Sometimes you have a group leader and he can be the one that talks and he can have a high charisma. So I'm going to do Constitution 18. I'm going to be with 4 charisma and 9 intelligence, 9 wisdom. So I'm a really dumb, really strong fighter, which is fine. Again, you can reroll forever. You can store this and reroll different ones and then recall. Whatever happens, so we're moving on. Skills. Now, skills, depending on your class, you'll get different things. If you're a thief, you'll get to allocate thieving skills, and if you're a mage, you get to choose spells. But everybody gets to use proficiency slots. So, what is proficiency? You have a certain number of proficiency slots that you can allocate, and you have all the different weapon types. Since I'm a fighter, I can actually choose whatever I want, and you have the styles. We're going to get to the styles in a second. So, how does this work? If you use a weapon that you're not proficient with, you're getting a -4, I believe, to both attack and maybe it's just attack, but maybe it's also damage as well. Not entirely sure. But you're getting a minus. So you shouldn't use a weapon you're not proficient with. Now, a mage can only press 1 and be proficient with something. But a fighter can get all the way to 5. Different classes can get to different points, mostly specialized. Fighter is the only one that can get up to Grand Mastery. So not initially, but later on. Not a level 1 Grandmaster, that doesn't make sense. And what these things do is, other than give you just a bonus to hit and bonus to damage, they give you extra attacks. Now, we're going to talk about rounds and turns. A round is 6 seconds, and a turn is 10 rounds. So 6 seconds times 10, 60 seconds, a minute. So that's rounds and turns. And you attack a certain number of times per round. Round is the unit of time where something happens in 2nd edition. An extra half attack per round means that at the first round, I'll be attacking 1 time, then you can carry over the half, and at the second round, I'll be attacking again, and then there's another half, and 2 halves make 1, so I'll attack an additional time. So the first round I attack once, the second round I attack twice, third round I attack once, 4th round I attack twice. So it's 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. That's what a half attack does. And this is pretty damn big, and if you get to Grandmaster, you get an additional half, another half, though it's 2 attacks every time, then it's 2, 3, and then an extra attack per round, so it's 4, 3. Well, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4. And attacking 3 and 4 times a round is insane. So Grandmaster is amazing, and obviously you also get a minus to speed factor, which we'll talk about later, and you get +2 hit and +2 damage. So you want to get to Grandmaster, that's why fighters are so good. Other than that, you also have the styles. I'll let you read them on your own. They're very self-explanatory. Sword and shield style will give you a bonus if you're using a sword and shield. A style of two-handed weapon will give you a bonus if you're using a two-handed weapon. And this is what I'm going to do. I picked up the two-handed sword, and the two-handed weapon style because I just want the big sword and kill stuff. And that is how weapon proficiencies work. Again, different classes have different weapons that they can use. A mage can only use a sling, a quarterstaff, darts, I believe, and a dagger. So it's just 4 things to choose from, and you're also not going to get a lot of slots. Since I'm a fighter, I started up with 4, which is a lot. And then we have the 2 last things that are very, very important. Your appearance, yeah, and the sound that you make. I'm not going to play these for you, but I will say that whatever you choose, you're going to get really, really pissed off by this eventually because you're going to be hearing it a lot, so just careful. And the name is obviously incredibly important. So, yay, we made a character, except I'm going to skip the story, and now we're going to pause and go directly to the record and talk about things here. So, the first thing that we notice is fighter level 1, experience 0. Started with experience 0, obviously, and the next level, 2000. Now, what you need to understand is that different classes need different amounts of experience to level up. So, if I have a mage, he needs 2,500 to level up, and a thief needs 1,250 experience points to level up from level 1 to level 2. Our fighter needs 2,000. And this also refers to dual classing and multi-classing that we'll discuss later on in the third part. So different classes level up at different times. Pay attention to that. Now, proficiencies, that's at least how it's called. We have Thako. What the hell is Thako? So this is an aberration for 2-hit armor class 0. And we start off at 20 like everybody. So what's armor class? You start off with armor class 10. Everybody starts off with armor class 10, and then you get different minuses on it. You want your armor class as low as possible. So let's just run a scenario. 2-hit armor class 0 is 20 for me. And let's say I'm trying to attack someone that has armor class 0. So, in order to attack, you throw a 1d20. We said 1d20 can go all the way from 1 to 20. So, if I have my Thako is 20 and I'm attacking someone that has armor class 0, I need 20 to hit him, which is pretty damn hard. But what if he has armor class 10? So I take 20 minus his armor class, which is 10, and then I get to 10 myself. So I throw the 1d20, and I need to be above 10 in order to hit him. So I take my Thako minus whatever his armor is, and that's what I need to go above in order to actually hit. So if his armor class is minus 5, I do 20 minus 5, which actually sends me, minus turns into a plus, which actually sends me into 25. So I need 25 in order to hit him, and I'm throwing a 1d20. So my chances aren't really good, are they? Well, whatever the chances may be, 20, a natural 20 when you throw the dice, is considered always a hit, whatever happens, and 1 is always a miss, whatever happens. So even if you have an amazing Thako or fighting someone that has amazing armor class, there's always a chance for you to miss or to hit. And from Thako and someone's armor class, you can always derive what you're doing, and looking at your Thako, you can generally see how good you are at attacking someone. So both Thako and armor class, you want as low as possible. You want as low as possible. That's how you hit stuff in D&D. And that's my best Thako. My actual Thako is still 20 because I have absolutely nothing except for lame quarterstaff. And proficiencies. So moving on here, number of attacks 1 because I have a quarterstaff like we just saw, and I'm not proficient with the quarterstaff, so I'm just going to attack once. Lore is 0. What does lore mean? Well, lore is pretty much how generally knowledgeable you are. Different classes get different lore. It's also affected by other things such as wisdom, intelligence, charisma. I won't go into those things. But the higher your lore, the more likely you are to identify something that's unidentified. I'm actually going to go into the game and quick load, which will send me to a different game, the previous game. and we're going to go into my inventory here. I'm a different character. This is a very different character we started with, but you can see this belt, and it's unidentified. It's magical, but I have no idea what it does. So I can identify with a spell or a scroll, but I don't have them, so I need a vendor, I guess, or to get a spell or a scroll. Now, my lore with this character is actually 13. That's because I'm a mage and I'm smart and whatever. Mages and thieves have the highest, well, very high. Bards have the highest, and after them it's mages and thieves. So if your lore is high enough, just by right-clicking something or just by looking at it, you can sometimes identify it. So you want to send everything that's like this unidentified into the person with the most lore, right-click, and hope that it gets identified. If it doesn't, you need a scroll or a vendor or a spell. So that's lore. Reputation. Reputation is super important in this basically, and it's just what it sounds like. It's your reputation. The maximum is 20, which is considered heroic, and 1 is the minimum, which is considered villainous and evil. The thing is that this pretty much affects how people treat you in every way. If you have a heroic reputation of a good guy that's a really hero, and you have evil people in your party, they're going to be like, what the hell are you doing? And they will actually leave you. Other way around is also correct. If you have good people and you're a villain with 3 reputation, they're going to be, what the hell are you doing? And they're going to be pissed off at you. Now, if your reputation is 20, shopkeepers will say, hey, 40% discount just because you're a freaking hero, which can really be substantial, especially if you're buying something that's magical and that's really big, and these things actually happen. There are amazing things in shops that require a ton of money, but if you get there, you want to buy them. Other way around, if you're really, really low, you might get chased by the law. I mean, knights and if you go into, knights might chase you into the wilderness, and if you come up into a city, the guard might immediately attack you because you're such a villain, you're only there to cause trouble, they'll immediately attack you. And you'll have to fight the entire city. These things can happen with very, very low reputation. So you really have to watch your reputation and watch which team members you have. We talked about this. Either a good aligned party or an evil aligned party, you have to think about these things. So that is reputation. AI script, I have none because this is my main character. And saving throws. So saving throws is a 1d20 as well. You want it as low as possible because when you throw the 1d20, you want it to be above the number that comes up. You can, there's a lot of things that change these things, like your ability scores and magical items that give you bonuses or minuses or whatever. And they pretty much do what they mean. I mean, if there's on whatever it is that's cast on you or happens to you, the description explains what kind of saving throw you use. As an example, we can go and look at the Chromatic Orb, and in this case, there is no save. Each orb will do damage to the target against which there is no save, and an effect which the target must save versus a spell with a +6 bonus. And remember, you want it as low as possible. So every description will explain. Most spells will go to spells in terms of saving throws, but other things might be a poison if you're fighting spiders and whatnot. Weapon proficiencies we talked about. Ability bonuses are exactly that. Ability bonuses, my strength is really low, so I get -1 to hit. Open doors means if there's a door in front of you and it's locked and you don't have a thief or your thief can't open it, you can try and bash through it. This is directly your strength score and gives you a certain chance to succeed. So you want your strongest warrior to come up and try and bash the door and open it and hope. And weight allowance, obviously also directly to their strength. Armor class minus, you get dexterity affects that one. Missile adjustment, reaction adjustment, all kinds of things that happen to you, and missiles trying to hit you. Hit points per level, directly to constitution. Chance to learn spell, directly to intelligence in terms of mage or a cleric if you're, wisdom if you're a cleric. And reaction is generally to your charisma, I believe, in terms of how you can react to people and to things in fights. So that is in terms of the record. And we are going to talk about the things here just a little bit more. Armor class we did talk about. Hit points is hit points. The THAC0 is how you hit stuff, very simple, and the damage is right here. When we actually go into one of these daggers, we also get a speed factor. And this also exists, not speed factor, it's called just casting time, I believe, but that's in spells. So speed factor means it's somewhere between 0 and 10, and it means 1/10 of a round. So if I have 1 speed factor against someone that has 3 speed factor, and I mean, I'm using a dagger, a really good dagger, and he's using a two-handed sword, so it takes longer for him to swing. And I will do the damage first. We both attack once per round, so in one round we will both make an attack. But I'll attack first, which is important because I'll attack first before him, and maybe I'll kill him and he won't manage to attack me. So that's speed factor, and also casting time for mages. How long does it take to actually get the spell out? So that is pretty much the general sense of all the numbers. There's a lot more to discuss, but this has just been the basics that we did, and this concludes the second part. The third part is going to be tips and all kinds of other things such as dual classing, multi-classing, and moving in maps and whatever. Thank you for watching. I hope this has been helpful, and I will see you at the third part. Bye bye.